Hello class, my name is Javier Guevara and today I will be talking to y'all about Cindy Sherman. She was an American photographer and I'll give you a little bit more details on what she did and how she made a huge impact in the society throughout her times. Cindy Sherman was also a film director. She was born in Glen Ridge in New Jersey, and she was born on January 19th, 1954. She was the youngest of 5 children, and she grew up with a family that didn't support her as much. She was on her own most of the time. Her dad was an engineer, and her mom was a reading teacher. And during her young ages, she always enjoyed art. She always was fascinated by art, and she decided to go on and study arts in University of New York in Buffalo. There, she began her journey and was amazed at all these different types of stuff that was really interesting to me. Cindy Sherman used a lot of different techniques in her photos. She was really, everything she did was on her own, which is, like I said, I will be pointing it out a lot throughout the presentation because that's what made her remarkable. And in most of her works, her photographies, they were in different costumes, different makeup, different places, and she played a lot of roles throughout her journey because everything she did, it was on her own. So she was a director, a mistress, a model, and many other things. This was fascinating to me because she did all of it on her own, like I said. She used a lot of different costumes and not like actual costumes, like makeup. She changed her identity. She used different types of techniques that distinguished every single photography, and most of her work was on her own, like not on her own as in individually, but it was from pictures of herself. Like most of the work, it was pictures of herself. One of her most recognizable works was the Untitled film stills. It was 69 black and white pictures of herself, and all of them have the title as Untitled number from 1 to 69. The most remarkable one was the number 21. That was her most important piece, and she achieved international recognition thanks to that series of photographies. That one was her best work that a lot of people recognized there because of that, and it was hard to tell how she was feeling in some of her pictures. The background played an enormous role on what the people thought about the pictures. Most of her shots, they were at the apartment where she lived. Sometimes she substituted herself as a doll in sexual pictures. She also had sexual pictures, and through her work, Cindy raised important questions in the society because all of this was during the 1980s and 1990s, so most of the technology wasn't modern. Cindy, she had a huge effect in the world thanks to her pictures. It was mostly that her views were a little bit different, and most of the women agreed with them. She had different aspects, or she had different views in the issues of the modern world. She also had a huge effect in the cultural view of arts. There was something really different that stood out for me from Cindy as a photographer, because whenever I think of a photographer, I think of a huge studio with a lot of people that have enormous support from a lot of other directors, other actors, filmers, everything that includes photography. And so she stood out to me because she was a woman that was on her own independently, and that's a really big deal today, and it was a lot more of a big deal back then, like whenever women didn't have rights and all that stuff. It was around that time where it was pretty hard for a woman to be on their own and actually be recognized as a huge image throughout that time. That influenced a lot of women into believing that they can do anything they want on their own, that they can achieve success on their own. And so that's why a lot of people were inspired by her. And so she is currently using showing off her work that she did back then. She doesn't do it as much anymore because she's like I said, she was born in 1954, and so she's probably around 60, in their 60s, 70s almost. So she just she changed her style a little bit. She doesn't do her pictures of herself as much anymore. She takes pictures of others, but she was a huge picture in the 1980s. Most importantly, because of everything she did. She struggled quite a bit just because of the fact that she was on her own, but she pushed through, and then she became a huge figure. And right now she's currently living in New York City, and that's where she's stationed and showing off her pictures. She remains a huge picture, and if you go to museums, you can find her work. Most of it would be the untitled films, and they were really interesting to me because they all portrayed a different type of message. They were all different in a way that you couldn't tell what she was feeling. Different background, different hairstyles, different makeup, different dolls. There was dolls sometimes, but most of it portrayed herself, and she put herself in a situation where she was a figure to point out big issues in the society throughout that time. I recommend all of y'all to take the time to look a little bit into Cindy Sherman. I actually learned a lot from her. I never knew who she was until this project came up, and I'm really glad this happened because it made me value a little bit more photography. I've always enjoyed photography. I was the photographer for my school, the yearbook photographer, so I kind of chose her because I was interested in this, and it was really cool to me how she did a lot of stuff, and it motivated me a little bit more to look for something else in the photography world, I guess, because there's a lot of things you can do, especially with the technology we have today. There's a lot of options, and it was a really cool idea. It's not idea, but like a really cool project for me to go into look into Cindy Sherman. And that was my first choice, so I was hoping that I got to do her, and I did. So like I said, I recommend all of y'all to take the time to look into Cindy Sherman. It really doesn't take that much, and then you'll find a lot of information in a little bit of time. So I recommend all of y'all to do that, and I thank y'all so much for listening to my presentation, and hope you guys have a good one. Thank you.